But now we're moving on to a very interesting story, because new research has revealed that the number of Brits who believe global warming has been exaggerated has actually increased by over 50% just in the last 4 years.
Comes amid growing concerns from the public at the cost, of course, of the government's net zero policies, articulated by Ed Miliband, who, by the way, the Prime Minister tried and failed to move in the reshuffle,
yes, he didn't
showing how weak he is.
Well, we're now joined by the Director of the Climate Media Coalition, Donohoe Mahaffy, and Director of Net Zero Watch, Andrew Montford. Good morning to both of you. Donohoe, let's start with you. Do you think this is a failure for the Green movement, the fact that public opinion seems to have moved in the opposite direction?
Well, I think there's a lot. If you actually look at the detail of the survey, you see there's a lot of good news. Still, the British public, by a margin of 3-1, support climate action, and actually in my view, that the second point comes out of this survey. It's actually really good news for Zach Polanski in the Green Party. Why? Zach Polanski is advocating eco-populism. What does that mean? It means that the working class do not pay the price of the rich people's pollution. It's what we're arguing. The public supports taxing rich polluters to fund the transition for poor people. So what does that mean? It means cheaper bus fares for poor people. It means restoration of the rural bus route. It means cheaper electricity prices for people on green electricity margins, and also it means taxing the fossil fuel rip-off. In the last year, the National Grid, which is owned by American billionaires, and Gulf oil petrol dictatorship, has actually pocketed £5 billion of our money. And secondly, even the Daily Mail agrees that actually the price of electricity in the UK is set by fossil fuel marginal prices. That is another £5 billion tax by the oil industry on British consumers. So this survey, in my view, says two things: tax the rich to fund the green transition, and the British public supports the green transition.
Andrew Montford, the fact that there's been such a staggering rise, which Donohoe just skated over, 50% increase in scepticism of climate change in this country in 4 years, is that an ultimate, shows a complete failure of fanatics like, let's say, Donohoe's particularly fanatical?
Name calling's not very nice, Andrew. I don't call you names.
But also organisations like Just Stop Oil, who I think never ever took the public with them.
No, I mean, the whole story of the last 20 years has been politicians and green activists trying to convince the public that there was no trade-off between prosperity and decarbonisation. It was, in essence, a huge lie. We've seen electricity prices have gone up pretty much every year for the last 20 years, essentially since we started doing renewables. In terms of the polling, we've realised for quite a long time that if you say to people, "Are you concerned about global warming?" they say yes, yes, yes. And if you say, "How much are you willing to spend to do something about it?" essentially they say, "Well, nothing at all. This is somebody else's problem," or we don't want to think about it. The costs of net zero is what brings reality home to people, and because the costs keep going up, I mean, we've just seen Ed Miliband offering huge increases in subsidies to wind farms for the next auction round, because the system is now becoming so inefficient that they need that just to stay afloat. That's going to hit people in their wallets, and it's not clear how much more of this we can take. We are expecting another 5% increase in electricity bills in a year's time. And it will carry on every year after that. It's going to accelerate. We're expecting bills to be £300 to £400 higher by 2030, by the time Ed Miliband's plan is complete. And that's just the electricity bills. The cost of living will go up too. That is inevitably going to make people turn against it.
Well, I mean, I think it's not surprising Andrew Montford's been pumping out this information for 20 years. I'd like to ask Andrew one question. Do you admit that you accept dark money from America and that you refuse to declare your donations, and that the British public doesn't know who you speak for? I think you're a threat to British sovereignty, in that actually a think tank like yours are are living off dark money from US billionaires and actually trying to influence British public policy with disinformation.
Well, even if he is, we'll let him answer the question in due course, but even if he is living off of the dark donations, are you really trying to say that's why there's been a 50% jump in the number of people who are sceptical?
No, I actually,
change
no, that's a fair question, Andrew. And the point I would argue is that people like Andrew Montfort have been working in Hawk with the right-wing billionaire papers like The Telegraph, which is also owned by a Middle East petro dictatorship and American billionaires. They've been working to try and brainwash the British public that net zero is a problem. Actually, the British public have rejected that in this survey by a margin of 3-1, despite years of Matt Andrews' disinformation and a campaign over the last 4 years by the right-wing media to try and trash green action. The British public supports it, and actually what Andrew never tells people is that the climate regulations have reduced the cost of refrigeration for people, they've reduced the cost of lighting, they've reduced running their cars, they've reduced running their heating systems, because the regulations have made the energy system more efficient and reduced bills.
Andrew Montfort respond to those allegations that you've just made. Andrew, what do you say to those accusations?
Do you accept our money?
Let us answer.
Yeah. Okay. So the last time Donica and I appeared against each other, he said point blank that we did, and I called him a liar on air. This time he's put it as a question, so I don't need to accuse him of being a liar. The answer is no, we don't accept dark money from American billionaires. Almost all of our money comes from people, private individuals in the UK.
So not what your account said.
We don't
40% from America.
Because, could you stop interrupting, please?
Yeah, let him answer.
We don't identify them for two reasons. We don't identify them for two reasons. One is because it would be illegal to do so. You're not allowed to give out people's private information under data protection laws. This is private financial information. The other reason is because what will happen is that if their names ever did come out, is that they would then have their businesses trashed by green activists, as our offices have been attacked several times now. They come round and they spray paint them, they cut the telephone cables and that sort of thing. And so, no, the problem is that the environmentalists are essentially extremist thugs. And,
here we are, name calling.
This is why
name calling is nonsense.
This is why Donica doesn't want to have.
If you have to resort to name calling,
given enough, let him have his turn.
Doesn't want to talk about facts. He doesn't want to talk about data. He wants to conjure up these conspiracy theories in an attempt to silence me. Those days are going now. People have seen through it. They can see that the Greens have been trying to silence people, and that they bring out this thuggery to anybody who
Andrew, I'm sorry, we're going to have to leave it there and come back around to another day.
Boxing gloves on next time. Always lively between the two of you. That's Andrew Montfort and Donahue McCarthy. How could I forget? You've been on with us many times. You're fair game, Donahue, because I fundamentally disagree with everything you say, but you do come in and argue your corner very well.
Absolutely. Well, moving on now, there have been many setbacks for farmers recently, with the government's hugely controversial changes to inheritance tax and a hot summer damaging crops.
But they're fighting back.